Hey, stop what you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you could be the most important 4 minutes of health information you'll hear this year. Most people believe brain fog and memory lapses are just part of getting older. But the truth is, your morning coffee, the very thing you rely on to wake up, might be quietly stressing your brain cells instead of protecting them. Unless you add this one clinical molecule, you probably don't think of your morning coffee as a risk. Most of us see it as our primary tool for waking up and clearing the cobwebs after a bad night's sleep. For a senior, or a caregiver trying to protect a loved one's independence, that caffeine might be working against you. When you drink caffeine, it triggers a spike in cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. In a 30-year-old, the body handles that spike and levels out. But in a brain that is 70 or 80, that cortisol spike can actually mimic the symptoms of the very thing we're trying to avoid: brain fog. It leaves you feeling wired but tired, sharpening your nerves while your memory feels like it's slipping through your fingers. Most seniors I see in my clinic simply accept this. They lose their train of thought or forget where they put their glasses, and they assume it's just the march of time. But I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be this way. It's not about stopping the coffee. I know how much we all value that morning ritual. It's about fixing the biology of that ritual. Therefore, researchers searched for a molecule that acts like a steady hand for the brain, calming the jitters while keeping the alertness. And what they found is sitting in ordinary tea leaves, but most people are using it all wrong. See, the human brain isn't static. It's a living environment that responds to every chemical we introduce. When you pour that specific amino acid into your morning cup, you're not just adding a supplement. You're updating your brain's operating system. I've seen this transformation firsthand in my clinic. One of my patients, a retired history professor named Robert, came to me because he felt like his memory library was burning down. He'd walk into a room and forget why he was there 3 times a day. He was terrified he was losing his independence. But once we introduced the protocol I'm about to show you, his world changed. Within 2 weeks, his afternoon slump vanished. And more importantly, he felt he could trust his own mind again. He wasn't just alert, he was precise. And that precision starts with a specific shift in your brain's electrical rhythm. The molecule I'm talking about is an amino acid called L-Theanine. You might have heard it mentioned in passing, usually in the context of green tea. But what makes L-Theanine truly extraordinary for neuroprotection isn't just that it's natural. It's that it can actually cross the blood-brain barrier. Think of your blood-brain barrier like a highly selective security gate. It keeps out toxins and waste, but it often keeps out the very nutrients we try to take in supplement form. This is why many brain boosters you see on TV don't actually do anything. They simply can't get past that gate. L-Theanine is one of the few that has an all-access pass. Once it gets inside, it goes to work on your brain waves. Most seniors spend their day in a state of beta wave activity, which is associated with stress and doing. It's that feeling of your mind racing but not actually getting anywhere. But when you add L-Theanine to your coffee, it induces something called alpha wave activity. This is a state of calm alertness. It's that feeling when you're relaxed, but your focus is laser sharp. Imagine you're trying to solve a crossword puzzle. In a beta state, you're frustrated, your heart rate is up, and the answers won't come. In an alpha state, you're calm, you're present, and those connections just happen. Clinical research shows that these alpha waves, which range from 8 to 13 hertz, are the key to selective attention. That means being able to focus on a conversation in a noisy room or remembering a name without having to reach for it. It turns your brain from a chaotic radio station into a clear, high-definition signal. However, the real magic isn't just about feeling focused. It's about how this molecule physically guards your neurons from the damage that leads to decline. It's like having a dedicated security team for your synapses, making sure the electrical signals don't burn out the delicate tissue of your hippocampus, which is the memory center of your brain. This is where the science gets truly powerful. One of the biggest drivers of brain cell death and aging is a process called excitotoxicity. Your brain is essentially an electrical grid, and glutamate is the fuel. But in an aging brain, sometimes the grid gets overloaded. Essentially, your brain cells get overstimulated by a neurotransmitter called glutamate until they literally burn out and die. L-Theanine has a chemical structure that is almost identical to glutamate. This allows it to act as a decoy. It binds to those glutamate receptors and prevents that over-sparking from happening. It's like putting a governor on an engine to keep it from redlining and exploding. It's not just slowing things down, it's making the process more efficient. But the protection goes even deeper. We all know that amyloid beta is a primary marker of Alzheimer's disease. These plaques are what doctors look for when they're diagnosing cognitive decay. They act like sludge in the gears of your neural network. Landmark laboratory updates from 2025 show that L-Theanine can actually mitigate the cell death induced by these plaques. By adding this to your coffee, you're creating a neural shield. You're not just clearing the fog for today, you're potentially starving the mechanisms that lead to cell loss tomorrow. This gives your brain the quiet environment it needs to actually perform repairs instead of just struggling to survive. Think of it like a construction crew that can finally fix the roads because the heavy traffic has finally stopped. But even with this protection, there's a specific mistake that makes the entire protocol useless. And it's a mistake I guarantee millions of people will make tomorrow morning. They'll buy the wrong form or use a ratio that actually increases their fatigue. This sounds like a future medicine, but for a brain that is struggling with sleep deprivation or age-related fatigue, the results are often immediate and measurable. When the neurons aren't screaming in a state of overexcitation, they can finally process new information and store memories correctly. This is how we move from surviving to thriving. So how do you actually do this? You don't just drink more tea. I love green tea, but to get the neuroprotective effects I'm discussing, you need a clinical dose that tea alone can't provide. The most effective protocol used in medical research is a 2-to-1 ratio of L-Theanine to caffeine. If you drink a standard cup of coffee, which contains about 100 milligrams of caffeine, you want to add 200 milligrams of L-Theanine. This specific stack is what researchers at the British Journal of Nutrition studied in 2025. They weren't just looking at young college students. They were looking at how this interaction handles the specific deficits of an aging nervous system. They looked at sleep-deprived adults and found that this combination didn't just improve their mood, it significantly increased their reaction time and their accuracy during complex mental tasks. It basically fixed the damage that a bad night of sleep does to the brain's processing power. As we age, our sleep becomes more fragmented, which means our brains often start the day in the red. This protocol pulls you back into the black. You can find L-Theanine in simple, tasteless powder form, or in capsules. If you use the powder, you can stir it right into your coffee. It doesn't change the flavor, and it doesn't settle at the bottom. It just turns that cup of coffee into a neuro-metabolic tool. It's the simplest biohack I know, and it's one of the few that actually has the data to back it up. Think about that for a second. Most of the magic pills marketed to seniors today have zero clinical evidence. Yet here we have a simple amino acid that costs pennies and is backed by the British Journal of Nutrition. It's the difference between guessing about your health and following a roadmap designed for your biology. It's about taking control of your cognitive destiny, one cup at a time. The first mistake is believing that drinking green tea is the same thing. While green tea is wonderful, it usually only contains about 20 to 30 milligrams of L-Theanine. You would have to drink 10 cups to hit the clinical threshold we're looking for. The second major mistake is inconsistency. The neuroprotective benefits I've shared aren't just a one-off energy boost. They build over time as you modulate those glutamate receptors. You have to make it a daily habit, the same way you wouldn't just take blood pressure medication once a week. On that note, L-Theanine is generally recognized as safe by the FDA. However, if you are on medication for blood pressure, or if you have a very low resting heart rate, you should always consult with your primary care doctor first. L-Theanine can slightly lower blood pressure, which is usually a benefit, but it's something to be aware of. Finally, don't use L-Theanine to mask a massive overconsumption of caffeine. If you're drinking 6 cups of coffee a day, a supplement won't save your nervous system. Stick to a moderate amount of coffee and use the theanine to make that coffee work for you, not against you. I've seen patients try to hack their way out of a poor lifestyle by stacking supplements. But the brain isn't a machine you can just overclock. It needs rest, it needs hydration, and it needs the clinical steadying effect of the right nutrients. Your morning cup doesn't have to be a source of stress for your neurons. By adding this simple molecule, you've taken the sharpest blade we have for alertness, caffeine, and you've added the steadiest hand to guide it. I challenge you to try this 2-to-1 protocol for just 7 days. Pay attention to your focus and your brain fog levels in the afternoon. And then come back and tell me what you noticed in the comments below. Stay sharp.